Nobody expects a McLaren 1-2. Hello, welcome to Hard Compound, an American take on F1. You thought Monza 2020 was a wild one. No, Monza 2021, the Italian Grand Prix, did us all very proud. We have a content-rich episode for you. Monza, all the driver news, the big Max Lewis crash, and more. But first, son, what are you drinking?
Yeah, tonight I've got a Robert Saison. It's a traditional farmhouse ale from Russian River Brewing Company in Santa Rosa, California. Yeah, it's a It's a nice, flavorful ale. Some nice carbonation. It's tasty.
You are showing me up. That's a premium beer there. I am from the state of Michigan, South Canada. Check to your head from Dark Horse Brewery in, I believe, Marshall, Michigan. It's an ice cream ale. I think I've had this before. I've had a few of their beers. That's a nice, refreshing beer. You could see why cream ales are so popular. Well, why don't you start us off? Monza 2021. I don't think anyone expected any of that.
Yeah, what a fun race. The third race back after break, and the first two were disappointing to say the least. This one, made it all worth it. It was an exciting race from start to finish. We got a full weekend, qualifying, the sprint, and then the full race. Lots of action all 3 days, and just crazy results. I want to say like 15 drivers finished that race. So, plenty of DNFs, big crashes in the world championship fight. McLaren 1-2. I was a week off with that, by the way. They had a horrible week last week, and then all of a sudden came through in Monza. It was a lot of fun to watch. Fun weekend. It was definitely lots to talk about.
Yeah, they have the Mercedes engine, right? So in Monza definitely plays to their strengths. As I said, no one expected a McLaren 1-2. I know you and I can still remember when McLaren returned, and Alonso was in that car and saying, guys, this is an F2. This is a GP2 car. We cannot bring this car onto the track. And there were races where, I mean, most of the races we thought, well, McLaren's not even going to finish this race. I'm not even sure they're going to start. And here, 2021, all credit to Daniel Ricciardo, to Lando Norris, and especially to Zach Brown, who was really taking McLaren and from the ashes, and his hard work and bringing in top people and bringing in the money has really paid off. I think I haven't heard much about this, but I think McLaren had the most points ever in a weekend, because Ricciardo was 1 and had fastest lap. Norris was 2, plus Ricciardo got a point for the sprint. So I think that was the most points for a team ever. So, which is pretty impressive.
Yeah,
not quite as impressive, but I still thought it was kind of fun. I actually wasn't home when the race took place. I was in a plane 30,000 feet above, but miraculously, the plane Delta, the seat back screen had ESPN Plus, and I got to see the race almost live, which was pretty cool.
That is pretty cool.
Although it sort of reveals the sad state of American interest in F1, that the race was sponsored by something called Mother's Polish, which I'm not even sure what that is. I assume it's to polish your car. I think. but no Budweiser, no GM car commercials, just mother's polish. But hey, back to the race. What a wild one. McLaren won 2. Bottas from the back of the pack. Last year's winner Gasly is out. The woeful Giovinazzi, he's sort of in the sort of netherworld where everyone assumes he'll be gone. He has a bad race, a bad weekend, and then of course the big headline news: Lewis and Max crash again. Which I have to say, since they're both fine, I'm okay with that. I like that it's getting this nasty. Lewis Hamilton has had the best car by far for 7 years, and the only thing he sees is what's in his rearview mirror. But this season, Max has a car almost as good and is challenging him, and we are seeing a battle for the ages.
Yeah, I love a fight. I need everybody to stop with the whole, respect. You have to have respect for your opponents. Like, F that. Fight as hard as you can for every inch of track. Hamilton fought for every inch of track coming out on cold tires, pushed Max all the way to the edge, and then through turn 1 and into turn 2 kept squeezing him. And Max wasn't given an inch either. He knew he was on warmer tires. He had gotten them up to temp. He knew he had the grip, and tried to make a move on Hamilton, because I think he kind of knew if he didn't, that Mercedes was going to get away from him, and he couldn't let that happen. So he tried to work some magic. And obviously, we see the result. It didn't come off. Both of them retire from the race after a crash. And I'm with you. I am glad that both of them are okay, that they were both able to pretty easily walk away from that. And so, I'm happy that I got to see that they're fighting.
Yeah.
They are working tooth and nail for every inch.
Yeah, it's great.
And that's fun to watch. And I think everybody needs to just calm down a little bit with the whole blame game situation. Just enjoy the moment.
Oh, yeah. I think Lewis is just so spoiled. He's had the best car and no real challenger, not even his teammate. Bottas was never going to challenge Hamilton. And now he has a fight. And we're seeing just how dirty Lewis Hamilton is. And I love it. But I also think we're going to see a big change in Max. I think not just next race, and not even just for the rest of the season. I think this is a transformative moment, because I think Max Verstappen is the best driver in F1. But I think he's also the least aggressive. Because he's so good, I think people attribute a lot of that to aggressive driving. He's just that talented. I think with this race, he said, I'm not backing off. I'm not going to take the hit. And if I am hit, I'm going to hit back. And it cost him this race, which I think he would have won. Even with that that uncommonly horrible pit stop by Red Bull, I think he would have won this race. But I think we're going to see a real fighter come out in Max that we haven't to date. What are some of your other thoughts on Monza 2021 outside of the Lewis and Max battle?
Yeah, I mean, overall, just tons of stories throughout the weekend. Obviously, we had Bottas, who qualified first, which now, thanks to the sprint, technically means he didn't get pole. then so he started from first in the sprint and easily took control of that race, finished on top, no issues there. And because of his, he replaced so much of his car. He started from the back of the grid, which meant he actually started like 18th, basically, because Gasly started from the pits and Yuki didn't even start, which is disappointing. So we'll get to that in a second. But he fought his way through everybody and clearly had the most pace of any car on track. If he didn't start from the back of the pack, he easily would have won that race. He had the most pace all weekend, and whatever he was doing, whatever Mercedes did with the setup for that car, they did it correctly. They hit it spot on. He was pretty impressive. We like to kind of give Bottas a hard time here, but he was very impressive this weekend.
I have to say, I think for top level drivers, we've been hardest on Bottas, but you're right. This was his weekend. And second, we've been hardest on Ricciardo, who just has seemed not lost in that McLaren this year, but just so far behind his teammate Lando Norris. But not this weekend, not in the sprint, not in the race. So yeah, great race by the two veterans. Once again, Checo Perez just in that Red Bull, I don't think he's getting nearly as much out of that car, nor delivering on expectations. What do you think of that one?
Yeah, I agree with you. He has always been kind of a scrappy middle of the pack driver. He's never had a car that should be at the front of the pack. So he has fought his way through the midfield, and I think he's quite adept at that. He's proven, he's a veteran of the sport. He's proven that he can pick his way through the field pretty well. In the car that he has, though, he's just not finding the top end pace, I don't think. And Hamilton, Verstappen, Norris, guys like these are finding getting the most out of their car. They're kind of proving that on track every week. And Perez seems to be, right behind those guys, where he's like, he's got the car, but he can't quite get it into top gear. It's a little bit weird to watch sometimes, and I'm sure a little bit disappointing each week that Mercedes inches closer to Red Bull in the Constructors' Championship. So, we'll see. He's signed for next year, but I don't know how far after that.
Right. Let's see. Russell once again got into the points. Alonso once again got into the points. So that was great to see. It was the Italian race. Ferrari did not get on the podium, but both Leclerc and Sainz, I thought, did really well this last weekend. And I thought they did Ferrari proud, especially compared to, say, last year's car.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, definitely. Last year was woeful for Ferrari. This year, both Ferrari drivers are driving very well this season, and they have significantly more pace on track than they did last year. Unfortunately, at Monza, their home Grand Prix, they don't necessarily have the best top end speed on those long straights. So, they kind of fall away from those Mercedes powered cars, but both of them stuck it in there pretty well, and I think Leclerc finished fourth and Sainz sixth. So really well done to both of them.
Yeah, it was nice. So I thought a new segment would be a virtual podium. You and I were watching the University of Michigan football game this weekend. I believe there was about 100,000 fans in the stadium, which is about what you would get at a full F1 race. So pretty impressive that the university brings that many folks in to watch a game every week. We also noticed that a lot of the players had stickers on their helmets, including the typically unheralded offensive linemen and others. So I thought, it'd be a great segment to give sort of stickers or a virtual podium award to folks sometimes that are otherwise unheralded. So for this race, virtual podium, I would give the stickers or the trophy, however you wish to do it, to McLaren. I mean, like we said at the start, what a turnaround. It's taken about 7 years, but from, as Alonso called it, a GP2 car to 1 and 2 at Monza, that is impressive. My number 2 pick is Martin Brundle. As I said, I got to watch the race live from the jet airplane, and Martin Brundle was on top of the Max Lewis crash from the start, and he was in real time analyzing what happened, why it happened. He mostly blamed Lewis, unlike the stewards, but I thought he did a great job. And then third goes to someone I'd never heard before this weekend, the winner of the Women's U.S. Open, Brit by the name of Emma Raducanu, who posted that, to sort of help keep her relaxed between matches, she would watch F1 highlights. So I thought that was pretty cool. So McLaren, Martin Brundle, and Emma Raducanu. Well, what about you? Do you have any virtual stickers to award?
I do have a few, and my first one is something that is only heralded when when it prevents something horrible from happening, and that's the halo. Once again, we saw it protect a driver from basically an injury that would result in either their death or the end of their career.
Yeah, good point.
For some reason, it gets a lot of flack, but only when it doesn't do anything. But when it does something, when it's necessary, it saves people's lives. And, so again, pretty much saved Hamilton's career, I think, in this situation. It definitely gets a sticker for me.
It should, and that's a good one because I know when the Halo was first introduced, I was opposed. I went old school. I thought it made it look like an ugly Indy car. But I think we've seen crashes with Alonso, Grosjean, I think Leclerc, and you're right. Definitely stickers for the Halo for sure.
Yeah, definitely. My second one is just the atmosphere. Monza, Italy, the Tifosi. It was a lot of fun. We got an awesome race. I can't say enough about F1 and Monza. It's just every year, every single time they go to Monza, it's so much fun. It's exciting, and the Tifosi gets up for Ferrari. They love Ferrari. It has been pretty disappointing the last couple of seasons. This year, Ferrari did well enough to I think make them proud. So that was fun to watch, and so just the whole atmosphere and race gets a sticker for me. Nice. And then my final one, I don't know if you saw it, but Carlos Sainz's helmet was just wicked. It was very cool, a special Monza helmet. I like black when it's done well, and he did black well on his helmet. It was very, very cool helmet design. So that is my final sticker.
Nice. recall that. I'll have to give that a look. I know like Alpha had a special livery, which I thought was cool, mirror the Italian flag colors, which I thought that was pretty cool. I'll have to check out Sainz's helmet. But those are all good ones. Now, there's a break between races before we get to Sochi. I thought we should talk about some of these driver changes and some of the rumors. I mean, let's tick them off. Russell going with Mercedes, that's a big one. Bottas signing with Alpha, long term, big one. Albon with Williams. I want to get your thoughts on how you think he's going to do there. It's been nice to see Kubica in standing in for Kimi, who's had COVID, but I think for the most part he's going to be, relegated to reserve driver, if anything, going forward. Yeah. But so I wanted to get your thoughts on, particularly on how you think Albon is going to do with Williams. But also, I thought this kind of was underplayed. Gasly, I thought, really took Perez to task. He's saying publicly, I can do better. That he, in other words, deserves that Red Bull seat once again more than Perez does. So what are your thoughts real quick on Albon and Gasly?
I am happy that Albon is back in F1. I suspected that if he didn't get back into F1 next season, that he probably wouldn't get a shot ever again. So I'm happy that he's getting a chance with Williams to partner with Latifi, two young drivers. Williams seems like they're on the up and up. I think he is going to do a lot better at Williams than he did with Red Bull as Verstappen's teammate. I think he was under so much pressure, didn't get any help or instruction from the team, and ultimately was booted from the sport in kind of a, I don't know. It just didn't sit right with me, the way that he was kind of treated with Red Bull. So I'm happy that he's back in the sport.
Yeah, I agree. Me too.
And then, Gasly and Perez is just, I think the way Gasly's driving now, he has a point. He took that AlphaTauri seat after being sent back down from Red Bull, and has really taken it to new heights. I mean, he's been so good with AlphaTauri. He had an unfortunate crash in the sprint this weekend and basically screwed his race. He had to retire from the race on Sunday, so that was disappointing, but he's been exceptional this year. And Perez, like we said earlier, has just been kind of floundering a little bit. So I think Gasly totally deserved that seat. But I think his time will come, especially if he keeps driving like this. He will get a seat on a true contender.
Yeah. I think Gasly has been getting much more out of his car than Perez. I also think Gasly may be a better driver. I will say this, with Christian Horner putting Perez in that second seat and signing him again for 2022, it may be best for Gasly, in fact. I think Max Verstappen is, at this stage of his career, sort of like Alonso when he was at his peak. And everything is going to be focused on him, getting all the best, getting everything situated just for him. And I think that's going to just sort of beat down a younger driver. And Perez, I think, can sort of handle that role. So that's the only reason why I think Perez might be better in this Red Bull seat than Gasly. But because I sort of agree with you, Gasly has a good point. I think he's been driving his car better than Perez has been driving his. Which leads me to my next segment. With the exception, I think, of Giovinazzi, who I'm not expecting to return, we now know who all the drivers will be. And so I wanted to get your thoughts on who you think the best teams will be. I'll start. I mean, I got to give it up to Mercedes, because I think they've had the best car for the hybrid era by far. I don't think anyone has really been close. Finally, this year, Red Bull's getting close. But they've had the best car, but not the best team. When it was Hamilton and Nico, that was a top team. Hamilton, Bottas, I'm sorry, Bottas is just not in the same league, I don't think. But Hamilton, Russell, next year, I think that's the best team in F1. And then I think, speaking of Monza, Leclerc and Sainz, Ferrari, that's the second best team. I know, slight bit of controversy there. So who do you think? Who do you have as your top teams for 2022?
I think you hit the nail on the head with Mercedes. Hamilton, 7-time world champion, fighting for an 8th, and George Russell, potentially the best up-and-coming driver on the grid, partnering together. That's going to be a wicked team to watch. We, I think, might get out of the gate some scraps between those two. I think George will push Hamilton like Max is pushing him this year, and we're going to see Hamilton rise to the occasion once again, and both of them are just going to fight for every point, and I think they are absolutely going to be the best team.
Yeah. Who do you think second and third, maybe?
Yeah, my second is actually McLaren. Norris and Ricciardo. If Danny Rick can keep up this momentum and get a little bit more comfortable in the car going into next year, that's a formidable team. I think they could contend for the Constructors' Championship next year with both of those guys in the McLaren. As long as the McLaren team just keeps improving the car, I think they have a real shot at winning the Constructors' title.
Oh wow! That would be pretty amazing for McLaren to get, to get the Constructors' title, given how low they were just a few years ago. For me, I would put them third after Hamilton, Russell, and Leclerc and Sainz. And then fourth, I would put Alonso and Ocon. So those would be my top four, I think. And I just don't see the other teams. There's Albon and Latifi. We'll see. We'll see how they do. I mean, I think they'll be fun to watch. At least Albon will. If Yuki performs the way we keep hearing he potentially can, Gasly and Yuki could be a fun one to watch.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
I definitely agree with those. For me, I think, we flip-flopped McLaren and Ferrari. I think Ferrari would be my third team there. And then, I don't know, I think Red Bull, I know we are seeing Perez isn't getting the most out of his car, but he's a really solid driver. And then to pair with Max, who I believe is the best driver on the grid, I think, putting them at the fourth best team overall is not outrageous.
Yeah, I'm a little disappointed in Perez this season. It's not quite, Wayne Gretzky and his brother sort of a scenario, but I think Max is now getting well ahead of Perez here. So I didn't want to include them in my list. So before the race, which was amazing in itself, we had the sprint. You and I were talking this weekend about our thoughts on the sprint, how we feel about it, and just sort of other ways of sort of making the whole weekend more engaging to fans, but also having a bigger impact on the season. So instead of points just for the race, the top 10, Are there other ways of distributing points? One of the ways we thought of was a sort of a way of rewarding overtakes. So if you started in 20th, let's say you're Mick Schumacher and you're in 20th, and you overtake several racers during the race, several drivers during the race, maybe a point for each overtake. That's something where we might then want to pay more attention to what's happening in the midfield and even in the back, and sort of encourage teams that like Haas, like Williams, typically are in the back. Let's see what they can do, and let's sort of encourage exciting driving. So I just want to get your thoughts on that, and sort of any other thoughts you had on the sprint or sort of opening up the race weekend.
Yeah, I love the idea of the sprint. I am not a traditionalist by any sense of the imagination. And, I like introducing new ways of kind of making the sport more exciting or engaging, and kind of giving the drivers a new challenge. So I like the idea. I don't know that F1 has nailed it on the head quite yet. There are, a few things that people who don't really like the sprint, I kind of agree with some of the things they're saying. It makes qualifying less interesting because it doesn't really matter a whole lot how you qualify. Things like that. So, it'd be kind of interesting to see if F1 could do something like the reverse grid that F2 does. See, how the top drivers manage when they're starting in 10th. It'd be fun to watch guys like Max and Lewis and Russell in a Mercedes, see if they can weave their way through traffic, see if they can overtake guys, and how guys defend. We saw a little bit of that in was it Hungary, where Mick Schumacher was defending against Hamilton and did it for a fair amount of time in a very bad Haas car. That's a fun thing to see. And then to see Ocon win because of Alonso's defense on Hamilton, those are fun things to watch. And I think kind of intentionally manufacturing those would do the sport a lot of good, at least in my opinion. So, getting guys who are typically starting at the front and staying at the front to sort of start in the middle, I think would be kind of fascinating to watch.
Yeah, I agree with that, especially because it's been really eye-opening this season. Mercedes has been at the front of the grid for years now, and we just haven't gotten to see Hamilton, and rarely as well Bottas, sort of having to fight their way through, especially at the start of the race. For me, it's been eye-opening how lackluster, for example, Hamilton's starts are when he's not at the front of the grid. Similar with Bottas, whereas let's say Norris, Alonso, watching them weave through traffic at that chaotic start, it's just so great to see. So I'm with you. I think that's a good idea, like a reverse grid or something like it, where the F1 is sort of forcing all the drivers to sort of reveal the full extent of their abilities. In starts, in passing, braking, in everything. So I think that's a great idea. So let's see. No race next week. Week after that, I believe, is Russia, back in Sochi. Mercedes, I believe, if memory serves, they dominate Sochi. So I wanted to get your sort of, do you have any predictions on that race?
Yeah, Sochi's always one of those where...
Sorry. why don't we just sort of segue your predictions into our Across the Line segment, where we list out who we think will finish top 5 in the next race.
Okay,
right?
Sounds good.
Why don't you explain real quick how we do Across the Line?
Sure. So anybody that hasn't been here before for us to do Across the Line, we're each going to draft 5 drivers for the next race. Once a driver is taken, we can't take them again. So in total, we're going to select 10 drivers between the two of us. And 1 point is going to be awarded if the driver that we select finishes in the top 5 of the race. And then 3 points is going to be awarded if we get the exact position that they finish in the top 5. So we have done this a couple of times so far, most recently in this last race, where I'll just tell you our top 5 that we drafted for Monza.
This can't be good.
Yeah, I know. It was pretty disappointing. So you took an old lineup, basically. You had Verstappen, Sainz, Vettel, Ricciardo, Alonso in that order. So the only guy that finished in the top 5 was Ricciardo. So you ended up with 1 point. For me, my top 5 was Leclerc, Hamilton, Gasly, Perez, and Norris. So I had 2 DNFs, but 3 of them were in the top 5. Unfortunately, I didn't get any of them in the correct position, but I got 3 points for that. So in total this season, after two races, basically, I have a total of 7 points to your 4 points.
And we even waited until the season had gotten underway before rolling this out. And but these last several races have just been crazy. I'd like to see anyone who had the fantasy picks of Ricciardo, Norris, Bottas.
Oh, I know.
For Monza. Okay, so why don't you choose first?
All right. My first choice for Sochi is going to be Daniel Ricciardo.
What? Oh, that's crazy. That's crazy. You've left me an opening, so I get to choose 1 and 2. And Mercedes dominates, so I'm going to go Hamilton, Bottas. Straight money pick right there.
We'll see. You never know. All right. Well, then my 2 and 3 spot are going to be Norris and King Max.
Okay, interesting. Then, so you've taken Ricciardo, Norris, and Max. So I am going to go with, that's a tough one. I am going to choose in my 3rd spot, Russell. And in my 4th spot, Gasly.
Disappointing. Okay, I'm just going to take Gasly. In that case, 4th and 5th for me, that's a tough choice. I think I'm going to go like you did last week with 2 vets. I'm going to go Alonso, Vettel.
Oh, nice. We are not giving any love to Ferrari in Sochi, that's for sure. And I'm following suit. I think for me, for 5th, I'm going with Stroll. So you took Vettel with Aston Martin, and I'm taking Stroll. Yeah,
interesting.
So that's good. So you choose Ricciardo, Norris, Max, Alonso, and Vettel. I've got Hamilton, Bottas, Russell, Gasly, and Stroll. So we'll see. We'll have to wait a week. Do you have any crazy predictions for Sochi?
That's That's a good question. I don't think I really have a whole lot of crazy predictions. My only prediction was going to be that we had a Mercedes power top four, both McLarens and both Mercedes. So that's kind of what I got.
Yeah, well, Mercedes dominates Sochi, and maybe with those Mercedes engines, that's not such a crazy prediction. For me, my crazy prediction is 2 races out because of COVID. Kimi Räikkönen returns and gets in the points. Top 10 for Kimi Räikkönen, Alfa Romeo. So we'll see. We'll see. All right, this has been a great discussion, son. That was a great race. I'm looking forward to Sochi. I think F1 is taking a deserved week off, and they're leaving us all with on a high, I think, after those last 2 races. Okay, well, that's it. I want to thank you all for listening to everybody's most beloved father and son F1 podcast, and we are lights out.
See ya. Thanks for listening.